Hello and welcome to Pop Culture Shark. I'm Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
Today we're going to be talking about movies that everybody else loves that we are not big fans of. But before we get to that, Caleb, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. It's been a weird weekend for me. As I said before, some viewers might remember. I'm very big into music. I'm a big musician, and so two things happened. The new Machine Gun Kelly album. I know people don't like him. I really do like him. His new album came out, and so I've been listening to that all weekend. But then also, uh, the drummer for my favorite band, Foo Fighters, Taylor Hawkins, unfortunately passed on Friday, and that there was definitely some numbness and shock, but I'm okay now. That Friday was not good, but I'm good now. I've had time to get over it. So other than that, it's been a pretty good week.
Yeah, I'm not terribly familiar with the Foo Fighters outside of Dave Grohl.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it sounded like it was very unexpected. He was only 50 years
Yep.
old, so that's
Oh
sad.
yeah.
Um, as for me, I had a very stressful week last week, and so I
Ooh.
was looking forward to everything, everywhere, all at once, all weekend. That's all I was thinking about. So can't wait to go see that. Then, of course, a lot of stuff happened. My wife got sick with the flu,
Oof.
and so I was like, well, I could still try to squeeze, some time to go see the movie. And then I found it's not playing anywhere in Dallas.
Oh wow, really?
And I got to line a lot of places it's not playing. So then, went out further and it says April 15th it'll start playing at a theater that I could get to. So I gotta wait a few more weeks on that one.
Jeez.
So that sucked. But I did find one of the gargoyle figures I've been looking for. I found Thaylog, who's the clone of Goliath. So that's pretty cool. It comes with this pretty cool flare gun with this like missile that
Yeah.
shoots out.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty sweet. Uh,
One day you're gonna make me watch that 5 episode opener, because like I remember gargoyles from when I was a kid, but like I don't remember anything about gargoyles.
yeah. Gosh, I love gargoyles so much, but there's so much to to watch. We would have to do it in chunks. I would have to like pick some episodes. Um, yeah, so instead of watching everything everywhere all at once, I went down a YouTube rabbit hole and found this series called Monument Mythos.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've oh, and I forgot what it's called now, but basically, there's a bunch of YouTube channels to do like fake news broadcasts of horror stories and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
So it's kind of like one of those. It's kind of like a documentary style videos about an alternate timeline where the U.S. government is hiding um, like Cthulhu type creatures in the monuments, and they're like they're like feeding them and stuff. And uh, in this timeline, James Dean is was president and stuff. It's wild.
That sounds awesome. Like you might have to send me that.
it's
That's
it
that sounds really cool, actually.
it is it's one of those it's confusing at first because at first you're like, okay, none of these stories are linked together, these weird stories you're telling me, and then they eventually start all coming together, but there's some really wild and weird concepts in it.
Yeah.
So uh yeah, they took some modern events and stuck them in there, like remember when the Suez Canal
Oh, I lost you.
and stuff. So it's really interesting. So all right, so let's get on to the news of the week. Um, First off, the Batman's been out in theaters. I still have not seen it, but they released a deleted scene. I think in the movie he's just kind of. I think you hear his voice, but they don't really show him.
You get like like he's obscured by shadow,
Yeah.
and his spoilers for the Batman just right here. He neighbors a cell with Riddler in
Okay.
Arkham Asylum.
Gotcha. Um, Yeah, so we're talking about this, the Joker. There's a scene, and I didn't really pay attention to the scene. I was kind of fast forwarding through it because I haven't seen the movie, but um, I just wanted to see what he looked like. So,
Hmm.
so basically, Batman shows up at Arkham Asylum and is talking to this guy, and he looks creepy.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Like it is uh, straight up, just like because I remember whenever I first saw the movie and he's obscured by shadow, I knew it was the Joker because I'm like, who else would it be? Plus, I knew that Barry Keoghan was rumored to play the Joker,
Yeah,
but he looks like if Two Face was his whole face, you know?
yeah, that's where I was like, I don't think I would enjoy a movie with the Joker looking like this when I saw him because he looks like Two Face if his whole body was burned up and he just had a couple little tufts of green hair sticking out at the top. Um, I mean everything. His hands all have like little tumors and junk all in the back of his head. He's just gross looking.
Yeah, this is not. Uh, so the scene itself, I think it's well acted and everything. I understand why they took it out, and it honestly they should have taken it out. Um, I think his laugh is good, his voice is good. Like I said, it's well acted. It's just not what I would have done because they really went in hard on him being the Zodiac killer, Riddler being the Zodiac killer in the movie, very
Hmm.
similar to that. And
Yeah.
so, what I thought would have been cool is if each movie, uh, the Batman villain was based on a different real life serial killer.
Okay.
And so, I always wanted this version of the Joker to be John Wayne Gacy.
I could see that. I could
Yeah,
definitely see that. Yeah, it's an odd choice.
yeah,
So definitely not the one I
yeah,
would have went
yeah,
with.
yeah. I also, at this point, I don't have an opinion on Barry Keoghan as an actor because I've only seen him in Eternals, and I kind of just hated that movie in general.
Yeah, I have no clue who this guy is. So,
Yeah,
um,
he plays like there's an Eternal that can like control people's minds or something like that.
okay,
He plays that guy.
gotcha. Yeah, so odd choices all around, but we'll see. I kind of think they released this to judge people's reactions,
Yeah, yeah,
to see if
definitely.
they want to go forward with it. This look,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, a lot of the reactions I have seen online are like, "Oh, I love this," and I'm like, "You do? Why?" So,
Well, and
we'll,
I know that it was not Matt Reeves's intention to do the Joker in the sequel. So this is definitely kind of a studio mandate.
yeah,
Um, the, the villain that he said he wanted to do next was Mr. Freeze, and I'm like, I don't know how you do that.
yeah. In the world he's set up as more of a realistic crime drama. I don't know if Mr. Freeze would work.
Like he kills people in like one of those like ice freezer butcher shops or something like that. I don't know, like
Yeah,
something to do with the refrigerator.
I kind of want. I don't know if you saw where Nicolas Cage said he wants to play Egghead. I'm all up for that. Like that would
you,
be great.
you know who Cameron has been saying that he thinks would really work well in this universe, and I'm starting to agree.
Who's that?
Ventriloquist and
I was
Scarface.
gonna say probably those two. Yeah.
Yeah, like that would be sick. You get like Christoph Waltz as ventriloquist. That'd be amazing.
Yeah, I always find ventriloquist and Scarface is so interesting because they kind of they act like, oh, the puppet's really alive, or is he, or is it really him that's doing the it's just kind of this fascinating. I mean, to me, obviously, it's the ventriloquist that is his other personality is coming out through Scarface, but
Right.
it's such an interesting concept.
I still think one of the best episodes of the animated series. I think it's called Double Talk. It's the
Mm-hmm.
one where Arnold Wesker has been cured, but like he's still being followed around by Scarface.
Yeah.
Uh, it's because that series did a lot of those. The villain has been rehabilitated episodes. Like they did
Mm-hmm.
one with Harley, they did one with
Yeah.
Penguin, I think and I think they did one with Riddler. All those. That one might be one of my favorites. The Mister Freeze one in Batman Beyond is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
um, but that ventriloquist one is super cool.
I really like that Harley one where she's she's trying to do right and she goes shopping. They didn't take the tag off, the alarms go off, and she just snaps, and it's great.
And like she's being pulled by the hyenas on rollerblades.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, that's back when I loved Harley Quinn. Oh, good times. All right, so let's get on some other news. I know you and I have been talking a lot about them eventually adding Nova to the MCU.
Yes.
And we got word this week that I think it's the Moon Knight writer or someone involved with Moon Knight is bringing Nova to the MCU.
Yes.
First, I heard it was just Rich Rider, and now I'm hearing it's going to be both of them, Rich Rider and Sam.
Yeah, and
I think I'm okay with that.
yeah. I think I'm okay with that in like a because what I heard, and I think it's what I said, what I sent you earlier, that it's going to be kind of like a Peter Miles dynamic.
Yeah.
Where they're going to be like partners, and Ryder is going to be kind of the seasoned vet, while Sam is still figuring it out. And like I would assume the solo movie will be about Richard Rider, and then whenever they do Young Avengers, that's whenever Sam will get the spotlight.
Do you think when they eventually get to Annihilation, they're going to swap their roles for what happened to Quasar and Nova in the story? Like Rich Rider will be the Quasar part, and when they go up against Annihilus, and then Sam will have to step up to fight Annihilus.
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too.
Um,
So I don't know
now,
how I feel about that. I'm trying to be vague on spoilers, but yeah, I'm not the hugest Sam fan, but I love Rich. I think Rich is awesome. So
here's the thing, though. I think that if they can rewrite Sam a little bit, I think I can be won over.
oh yeah, definitely. Because
I'll go ahead.
to you version quite a bit, so it's going to be a lot about with who they cast and the writing and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're both excited for Nova. To trickle out. They're all pretty bad. A lot of people just complain about the plot. The only compliments I've heard were that Matt Smith is pretty good in it.
Okay.
But other than that, every review was do you mind if I spoil what I've heard about the post-credit scenes, or you want to go in blind?
I've already heard.
Okay, so this is spoilers for anybody that's going to go see Morbius, but apparently the shots you've seen in the trailer of Michael Keaton are the post-credit scenes, and basically he's like, oh yeah, I'm the Vulture from the other timeline, now I'm over here, let's go get Spider-Man. And it's like, what? What?
Yeah, and honestly, it seems like something that wasn't given permission.
He's just doing this without Marvel's permission. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff about what Sony's allowed to use and what they're not allowed to use with Spider-Man, and this just seems I don't like the idea that are all the Spider-Man characters going to be constantly jumping back and forth now. That seems terrible.
Yeah, I will. Let me just go ahead and let you know. I don't know if this is on my end or your end, but for me, you keep cutting out.
Okay, yeah, you just cut out for me too. So hold on one second.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Anyway, I'm still morbidly excited for Morbius. Uh, in the same sense that that I was excited for New Mutants, and there's no way it could be worse than New Mutants.
Yeah, New Mutants is terrible.
Did you actually see it?
Yes, I have seen New Mutants.
Okay.
It was so disappointing because I had just, well, not just, but I read the original stories recently.
Yeah.
They got so much of it wrong. So,
I mean, honestly, even if they got it right, there's still some bad parts about it. Like, even if it was a good plot, that the script and the acting and the effects, there was so much wrong with it.
yeah, I didn't like some of the changes they made to Wolfsbane, and they had a lot of the powers all screwed up, and it was just kind of like,
Yeah.
okay.
I loved magic, but I always love magic. So
Well, what sucks is she's perfectly cast.
yes, I know.
Because like if this, I hope that if they ever bring her into the MCU, that they keep her as the actress. But
Uh,
all right. And then I think we got one more topic. I think you wanted to talk about Lego
yeah.
Star Wars. So
Yes. So I just read this before we went live. Um, Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga is coming out. The combat looks fantastic, and it looks like a lot of fun. But I just read some unfortunate news that there are going to be 300 characters, but they are omitting the character creator.
yeah, me personally, I've never really used it, but my kids use the character creator all the time, so I know that stinks.
Yeah, like I was so excited because with my friends I play this tabletop D&D Star Wars game, and we were gonna put our characters in the game, and
Oh, yeah, that's no good.
yeah, it still looks like a lot of fun. It's probably it might be the best Lego game uh, to come out, just because it looks like the combat is actually like in depth, other than just like pressing the B button to punch or shoot or slash. It looks like there's actually a combat system, which is pretty cool.
And I'm glad they're redoing the prequel movies because those were so early in the Lego Star Wars those video game life cycle that they're those old levels are pretty janky, and so for them
Yeah,
to finally go back and redo some of that is pretty cool.
yeah.
Cool. All right, so let's get to our main topic tonight. This happens to everybody. There'll be a movie that comes out, everybody loves it, and I just thought of one that I should put on my list. Maybe we'll get to that. But these are movies everybody loves, and then you finally see it, and you're like, "This is the movie everybody loves. This is not working for me." So,
Yeah.
so let's get started with this. I'm going to pick one that is universally loved by people, or at least people who love the franchise. And I'm not a big fan, and that is Austin Powers 2. When this came out, the title of it was pretty shocking.
Yeah.
So I was going to refrain from saying it on the podcast, but Austin Powers 2, of course, now I have it on the screen, so I don't know what I'm doing. But I think the first Austin Powers movie is a lot of fun.
Oh, I love it. It's hilarious.
So what are your thoughts on part 2? And then I'll get into why I don't like it.
I enjoy it. It's a comedy, and there are parts that I think are funny, and I'll go ahead and a character that I think is funny. I'll go ahead and refrain from saying his name, but he's very fat.
Yes. I believe the toy was called the Fat Guy when it was sold at Toys R Us.
The fat guy. Okay. But the biggest problem with this movie is it opens with I don't remember the character's name, but the love interest from the first.
Yeah, so the movie
she's a fembot.
This is my huge problem is Vanessa Kensington something is revealed to be a fembot at the beginning of this movie. So in the first movie, there's a very genuine love story between these two characters. She talks to her mom and all this stuff and everything. I mean, it's established she has a mother. The whole story. And then when you get to the beginning of part two, the problem was they married him off at the beginning of part one. They weren't really expecting a sequel.
Right.
So at the beginning of part two, they reveal, oh, she was a fembot. And her head explodes. And Austin Powers is like, oh,
I'm single again.
And he just starts dancing. And it's so bizarre. It is this. And I get the, you know, you're spoofing the James Bond formula where he has a different love interest every movie. I get it. But at the same time, it's like you had such a good story in the first movie, and now you've just thrown it away. And I can't get past that part of the movie. His reaction and them saying, "Oh, she was a fembot," not just recently, but the whole time. You know, if they had said, "Oh, they had replaced her as a fembot at the honeymoon or whatever," or something, it would have made more sense. But Basil exposition is like, "Oh yeah, she was a fembot the whole time," and it's like, but she has a mother that she was interacting with. Like it doesn't work.
Yeah, well, and it's a lot of comedies struggle with this. There's a disconnect between like whenever it wants you to care and actually feel things and where it tries to be funny.
But I think the first movie got that. Like there was like this general sadness with that he'd missed all these decades and he's out of place.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
I'm saying that
I
that's where
think,
this movie fails. Is what
oh
I'm
yeah,
saying.
and I think there's a way to do this story. It's a darker beginning, but it's kind of like what they did with Deadpool 2. You kill off Vanessa in the first few minutes.
Yeah, right.
And that's why he lost his mojo. And the story still works from that point on. That you know, because in the movie he loses his mojo. So that would be why he lost his mojo, is because Vanessa died. And then it's just it becomes a little bit more serious story. You still have all the jokes and the goofy mini and whatever, but it becomes a much more serious story about him learning to love again and putting himself out there now that he's lost somebody. Can he ever love again? You know.
You know, I never noticed the similarities between Austin Powers and Deadpool until right now.
And this is my big problem. The ending of Deadpool 2 is when they fix that. I hate it.
I've never, because Deadpool 2 is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah.
I've never, but like that, there was always like it was a little weird, definitely. I always thought that it would be cool if I think your name's Vanessa in Deadpool.
Yeah, it is. Vanessa Copycat is Vanessa.
Yeah, Copycat. I thought it would be cool. Like I know she's Copycat, but if she's like their version of Lady Death, where like he can never be with her.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun. Like there's this cosmic curse on him or something. But I thought the ending of Deadpool 2 would have been funnier if he does all those time jumps and then he gets back and he breaks the device. And then he goes, I forgot to bring Vanessa back. Yeah. That's how the movie is. That's a funnier, more Deadpool ending.
Yeah.
So anyhow, the rest of the movie is fine once you get past the opening scene, but it's just hard for me to even like the character after that point. He becomes unlikable. That he's just like, oh, okay, this woman I loved is just fake. Oh well. It's like, okay,
right.
I'm supposed to be rooting for you. All right. All right. So what's one of the ones on your list?
So this one might cause some discourse in this very chat right here. The Neverending Story. I know that so many people love this movie, and it's ingrained in a lot of people's childhoods. But I don't get it.
So,
Princess Bride is better.
oh, Princess Bride is a better movie.
Yeah,
I'll agree with you there.
yeah.
Um, so with a lot of '80s movies, you had to have been there.
I'm sure. No, no, I am sure that's what this is. Because a lot of people say, well, I watched it when I was a kid. I watched this when I was a kid too, and I was bored out of my mind.
Well, and here's another thing, and modern movies are made with short attention spans in mind,
Yes,
and older movies are not. Scenes will
right.
drag on forever and ever. Um, and there's been studies on this about like if you watch an old clip of Sesame Street from like season one, just count how many times the cameras cut to a different scene, and it takes forever. And then watch it now; it's like boom, 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 boom. It's constantly, the cameras are jumping here or there, or whatever. Because if they don't, they won't hold a kid's attention.
Yeah.
Um, so there are parts of this movie that drag. I just think it's cool. It's freaking cool. The wolf is awesome. Falcor's awesome. The concept of the nothing being the villain, that imagination is dying because kids aren't using their imagination anymore, and the nothing's just destroying everything. I just think it's really cool concepts, but
Yeah.
I could see why you don't like it.
Yeah. I I also I make fun of the dragon thing like on a weekly basis.
Oh my gosh, you are
It's
making
it
fun of my hero. What are you doing?
He looks like a piece of pink corn. It's hilarious. Like he's pink corn on the cob. It's so weird the way his scales look.
So when I was a kid, we would play with our Star Wars action figures, and we made everybody have the Force. Like Wicket had the Force, Han Solo had the Force, everybody had the Force. We were little kids. Who cares?
Oh, I would love it if that was the case.
And we would take Luke's Tauntaun and make that Falcor, and they would ride around on the Tauntaun.
Yeah. Now I will give this movie one thing. It didn't traumatize me like a lot of people, but it is very. I get it. The scene with the horse.
And it's been a little bit since I've seen this movie, but is it like the Swamp of Despair or something?
Yes.
Swamp of Sadness. Swamp of Sadness.
Yes.
Oh,
It didn't traumatize me like a lot of kids. No, the thing that traumatized me, I guess my version of Neverending Story is Bridge to Terabithia.
so I've never seen Bridge of Terabithia, but I've heard that there's some. I think a character dies or
Yeah.
something happens in it. Yeah.
Oh man, that one. And so I assume that what Bridge to Terabithia did to me, this movie probably would have done for. Yeah, that's the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one.
And for those who have never seen the Neverending Story, they get to the Swamp of Sadness, and the horse basically gives up the will to live. It just sinks into the mud and dies.
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's a kids movie.
Yeah, it's a kids movie. I will challenge you out there, if you've never read the book, you should check it out. It's pretty interesting.
I didn't even know there was a book.
So the movie covers the first half of the book.
Oh my gosh, there's more.
Uh-huh. And the second movie takes a couple of plot threads from the rest of the book, but not really. And the second movie's got its own little issues. There's a part in the book though where at the end of the movie they ask Bastion to come into was it Fantasia or whatever, and they have to beg him to enter the book. In the actual story, it gets to that point, and she's like, Bastion, you have to enter the book. He's like, no, I'm not gonna do it. She goes, well, you have to, or we can't continue. He's like, I'm not gonna do it. She goes, fine, we're starting over. So she starts telling the whole story again, gets all the way to that point, goes, you have to enter the book. He says, no. She's like, okay, we're doing it again. So it becomes a never-ending story because it comes to stuck in a loop until he finally agrees to go in to the book.
So that's why it's called Neverending Story?
Yes.
Oh, that makes, because I've never known why it's called that.
Yeah. So that's why finally agrees to jump in there. Pretty wild. Okay, so now you've learned something.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, so for my next movie, I know a lot of people love this movie.
Oh, here we go. I know which one this is.
I don't love this movie at all.
Oh, this isn't the one I was thinking, but yeah.
This is, a lot of people say, "Oh, this is my favorite Christmas movie. Watch it every year at Christmas, over and over and over." And this movie, and I love the original. Don't get me wrong, I love the original Grinch cartoon special by Chuck Jones. It's amazing. Everything about that is amazing. Not understand anything of the story at all. It is, in the original story, everybody knew the true reason for Christmas except for the Grinch, and it didn't. The presents, all the stuff, it didn't matter. They had each other, and that was the story. In the Jim Carrey version, Cindy Lou Who's like that, but the rest of town are all jerks. Every single one of them does not understand Christmas, and they're basically all Grinches.
Right. And like, I think he's played by Jeffrey Tambor plays the Who version of George Bluth.
Pretty much. Pretty much. It's just bizarre. I get that you have to stretch it out to 2 hours or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think you could have done that and kept the characters acting that way, But there's this weird thing in Hollywood now where if there's a villain in your story, you have to make them sympathetic. And they do that in this movie, like, oh, look at Grinch's backstory. They were horrible to him, so that's why he's this way, and it just ruins the character. It just ruins everything.
Right. Now, one thing that I think we have to give this movie, because I'm not a fan of this movie either, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
But Jim Carrey can act through those prosthetics. Like, he is so animated.
And here's the thing about probably all the movies on this list. There are parts I like.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to try to. I'm going to try to give, like, but here's, like, the silver lining, because I feel like if I defend Iron Man 3 and The Last Jedi for this whole show, and then I rag on these movies people love.
It's in any movie. Yeah. It's hilarious where he's like, you're an idiot. You're an idiot. I'm an idiot. You're an idiot.
Right.
It's so funny. But yeah, this movie, and the other thing, it's the kids movie, and they slip some language in there, and you're like, and this is supposed to be a kids movie. What are you doing?
Well, and then there's Who and in some sort of lingerie, I think.
Yeah, she's wearing this low cut outfit. You're just
that's like, right.
You're like, what is happening? What is this? It's like I don't know, something just popped in my head. There's some TV show that made fun of this where they put some beloved classic into a movie and make it all trashy and stuff, and that's what is happening here. There. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, it cut out again. So my next film that I think of everything, this is the film, because like I don't like Neverending Story, and my last film I don't like. This movie, I genuinely do hate this movie. And it is critically acclaimed and called one of the greatest movies of all time, and I hate it. And that is 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'll go ahead and say that I'm actually not that big of a Kubrick fan anyway. But this movie, and I've always said, the cardinal sin of a movie is if it's too boring. I'd rather watch an entertaining bad movie than a boring mediocre movie. This movie is so boring, and they say every frame is a painting. That's what Kubrick would say. Every frame a painting. Um, but I don't want to watch a painting for 3 hours.
So I'll say it's about 2001. I love the concepts of it. I don't know if I've ever sat down and watched the whole movie. Like
Oh man,
I've seen the beginning with the monkeys, and I've seen the part where Hal's killing everybody, and then I've seen the ending with the Star Child. Um, so in my head, I like this movie, but I don't know if I've actually sat down and watched every minute, because I
yeah,
could see how a Stanley Kubrick movie could get very boring very fast.
yeah. Like I like The Shining, but that's the only one I like.
Yeah.
No, it like even because the thing that people talk about with this movie is the Hal stuff.
Yeah.
And if you take it just on its own, you've got a nice 45-minute short film about a computer going crazy. But even then, it's still not amazing. But
Well,
it you know
at the time, that was revolutionary,
I'm
because
sure.
the
Yeah.
idea of a computer disobeying and doing whatever was it blew people's minds. So
Yeah, no. I'm sure about that, but the Dawn of Man stuff and I think the monolith, whenever they find it in like the on the moon with the digging site, like that part's kind of cool and ominous, but for the most part, I genuinely hate this movie because it's not a movie to me.
well, and Stanley Kubrick gets all artsy fartsy, and he's all like, this is like every scene's like reproduction, the story of life, and you start with the beginning, and then he's an old man at the end, and blah blah blah. It's I get the concept stuff, but I could see why if you sat through this movie, you probably think it's boring. I love the concepts of like the monolith and how and all that stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean it's one of those like I love the concepts. It's just like one of those things where it's
I get it.
like it's one of those things where it's like I get it, but I still I I don't I okay. This is I guess this is my last Jedi. uh,
No, I get it. I get
uh,
it. Um,
it just annoys me whenever like this is called one of the greatest movies of all time. That's
so what's funny is I think you were too young when it happened, but when we got to 2001, a monolith mysteriously appeared at a park in Seattle. No one knows where it came from. It just showed up.
that's funny.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. Uh, but yeah, I get it. If you want to watch a fun Stanley Kubrick movie, have you ever seen Doctor Strangelove?
I have actually. I do like that one.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Good stuff. All right. So next on my list, so let me take Hal off the screen. Would be this is the one that may get the internet mad at me.
This is the one that I was thinking of.
People adore this franchise. And I was excited when I heard about it, and then when I saw it, I don't know. I just did not care for it, and that is Shrek. And I think I was watching it like we were babysitting, and there was like little kids watching this, and I was like, "Whoa, this is totally inappropriate for kids." And I'm okay with cartoons being adult comedies if they're upfront about it. But when it's not really upfront about it, and they're just like, I don't know, it seemed like Pixar could do this so much better with comedy, and then Shrek is just like, oh, we're gonna go for all the crude jokes, and I just didn't like it. I don't like the human animations, and I don't know if this is the first movie that started this, but it was kind of a trend at the time where the whole cast would break out into song at the end of the movie, and and a lot of movies were doing that around that time. And I think Shrek. I know the later ones do it, but I don't remember the first one did. But I think everybody just kind of breaks out into song, and it's just kind of like,
No, the second one does it, and I will say I don't remember the first one and I've only seen the first three. I don't remember the third one at all. I vaguely remember the first one. The second one I love. I love the second one. And in the second one they don't break out into song in the traditional sense. It's just the fairy godmother starts singing Bonnie Tyler's "Holding Up for a Hero." And I mean, like that's one of the greatest. Honestly, it's one of the greatest covers I've ever heard. Like, not even joking.
That's funny.
But yeah, the first Shrek is I don't know. It's a very quotable movie. I do quote it all the time, but I have not seen it in about 20 years.
Yeah, and I admit I have not either.
I just quote
remember,
a lot. That's all.
I mean, I think the stuff I do remember. Like, I think Eddie Murphy is fine in it, and but I don't know. I just don't find the character appealing at all.
Yeah. Let's see. Everybody loves parfaits. I say that all the time.
The reverse curse with the princess is kind of cool. That she's actually an ogre. That's a kind of a fun little twist. But other than that, it's just kind of like,
yeah. Ogres are like onions. They stank. Yes. No. Like I guess like what it is like it comes off as a children's movie whenever it's not. I think it's a pretty funny movie. Or it's got like funny scenes and whatnot. There I do remember there is a point where it drags. I think whenever like they're in the castle, I don't find that as in like the dragon castle or whatever, I don't find that as exciting. I think it's just funny whenever they're like walking around doing stuff.
Well, this movie is kind of the same thing as Space Jam is to me. It came out when a lot of people were little kids, so they love it, and I'm just kind of like, no, I don't care. I was an adult when this came out, and I don't see the appeal.
Oh yeah, definitely. Well, and that's why. So here's the thing: I've never seen Space Jam, and that is at my church that has become known in the past couple weeks. And they're like, you've never seen it? You've never seen it? Now I can't watch it because I know for a fact that if I watch it, I'm gonna hate it. And then instead of just being the guy who's never seen it, I'm gonna be the guy who hates it.
There's a couple of good scenes in Space Jam, but the second Looney Tunes movie that everybody forgets about is way better.
Oh my gosh, Back in Action! I love that one. Oh man,
yeah, that's a way better movie.
I mean, whenever is that a mirage? No, it's a product placement. It's just a Walmart in the middle of the desert.
Yeah.
Oh man, honestly, that's an interesting one because I wouldn't
remember all the details now, but it fell through.
Yeah. I don't remember specifically, but I would assume that wasn't necessarily a kids movie either.
No, and Looney Tunes it's kind of like borderline.
It's a little different. Even the Looney Tunes, because whenever
there's a Looney Tunes movie coming out next year.
Okay, gotcha.
We're breaking up again. There's a Looney Tunes movie coming out next year. Acme versus Wile E. Coyote.
That's great. I love that.
About a court trial.
That's great.
I think James Gunn's involved with somehow. I don't know if he's writing or what, but he is involved with that somehow. So that'll be fun.
Is it just animated, or is it going to be like animated in live action?
I assume. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can.
Okay. I assume it's going to be live action mixed with cartoons like they've been doing.
I hope so. I really enjoy the aesthetic.
Yeah. Okay, so let's get to one more of these. So we're having all kinds of technical difficulties tonight. So this is the last one on your list.
Yes. So this movie is a movie that still haunts me to this day. It is a film called Hereditary. Um, Now, before I say this, I can acknowledge the artistry and it deserves all the awards it gets, but this movie is terrifying. Uh,
So I do not usually watch horror films, but I will read about them on Wikipedia. Just read the plot so I know what happened to them.
mhm.
This one sounds bonkers.
Oh my gosh. So So I remember it was like 2018 or 2019, something like that, and it was Halloween, and I wanted to watch something scary. I was feeling myself a little bit, and I typically stick to slashers. I love slashers, but supernatural horror. But I've heard from so many people that like it's a super scary movie, and like you won't believe it, and so like you piqued my interest. I got my family to watch it, and I regretted it. It's one of those. It's about like there's a family dynamic, and like it's a family that like is very guilt ridden, and they kind of hate each other at one point, and there's a big argument, and I almost feel like I'm intruding. Like I know it's a movie, but I feel like I shouldn't be watching this. Like I'm watching another family break down, and I shouldn't be watching it. Like I'm just peeking in on their issues, and it's so it feels wrong. Uh,
Yeah.
and then at the very end is whenever like the demon possession and the occult stuff actually starts happening within like the last 10 minutes. And it actually, whenever I was a kid, I had some night terrors about a specific figure, and that figure is in this movie,
Oh no.
and and I had forgotten about it, and
Yeah.
then whenever I saw it, it reminded me of my childhood, and
Yeah.
what scares me the most is that means I'm not the only one that saw it
Yeah.
because someone else had to write this movie.
Right.
Yeah, so for me, this is a movie that I hate, not because of its quality, but just because like this is the movie that like affected me in a negative way in real life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I acknowledge the artistry, and like it is possibly one of the greatest films of all time, but I just can't watch it. In fact, I've had so many like he's got another movie called Midsommar.
Hmm.
I refuse to watch it. And people are like, "Oh, it's not as scary as It's not even a horror. It's a different movie. I can't do it. Like the guy who made Hereditary, I can never watch any other of his films.
He's lost your trust.
Exactly.
Yeah. I when I read about this and the final scene, I was like, "What the frick am I reading?"
I know. I know.
um. Yeah. This one. No thanks. So I did add an honorable mention to my list.
Yeah.
So this one, I'll say it's not a bad movie. This is just one of those movies that got hyped to the heavens, and when I finally saw it, I was like, "That's it. That's what." And I know this is one of your favorite movies, so
Okay. Okay. All right.
uh,
Oh
I
no.
I don't like I said I don't hate it. I just didn't see what the fuss was over it.
I love this movie.
So it's Knives Out, a Ryan Johnston film. Um,
I think you just hate Ryan Johnson. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, it was fine. I was just expecting better plot twists and stuff the way everybody was hyping it up, and I had it figured out pretty early on, and I was just kind of like, okay,
Well, the real twist actually comes at the beginning because like it's barely a mystery. It's just one of those like do you remember Law and Order Criminal Intent?
yeah, oh yeah,
Um so that was an interesting Law and Order because you saw it from the perspective of the perpetrator.
right,
And so like Um, I just thought it was interesting because it gives you all the answers up front, and then you're just. But even then, you you're
You
not
still don't.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, you're still not quite sure. I just kept expecting that the whole family was in on it, or he had somehow was doing this for our next plot of his book, or something. And it
Mhm.
just it's it's one of the problems I have with movies, and I try not to think about what movies are going to be about because I always think of like better stuff than what's in the movie,
Yeah.
and so then you get disappointed, and it's like, well,
Well, and what I thought was the most interesting thing was, are you familiar with Occam's razor?
yes, that's the most logical answer is the answer or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah.
Right, right. So the idea is, um, if a person in medicine, if a patient has Lyme disease, but you didn't find any ticks on any tick bites, then you take a razor to their head because they probably got bit on the head.
Gotcha.
And so that's what Occam's razor is. Um, and so with it, spoilers for Knives Out, it's been 3 or 4 years, but with it being ransom, uh, it's one of those things where it's like, it's almost too obvious that it's ransom,
Hmm.
and then uh, it's an Occam's razor thing. And I also think um, Hugh did this is one of my favorite things ever. Because Ransom's first name is Hugh, and so whenever she says Hugh did this,
Oh,
uh,
gotcha.
Anna De Armas thinks I was like, "You did this," and she's like, "What?" But then it's like, "Oh no, she actually said Hugh did this," and
Oh.
yeah, yeah. I love this movie, and I also this introduced me to Anna De Armas, who has become one of my favorite actresses.
Yeah, and another honorable mention I just thought of.
Go
I
ahead.
actually got a couple. The Sixth Sense
Okay.
got hyped to the moon, and spoilers for a movie that's way old. When I saw the trailer, I said, "Oh, Bruce Willis is dead," and I had figured it out like right away. And so someone went and saw it and said, "Oh, so good." I said, "Yeah, let me guess, Bruce Willis is dead." And they said, "Oh, no, no, no." And so they told me that was wrong. So when I finally saw it, started watching the movie, I was like, "Oh, Bruce Willis is totally dead." I hated the movie after that point. So, and that's another movie that's very well made, well acted. Everything's in it's fine. I just think it got hyped so much, and I don't know. Another one just throwing it out, Man of Steel. I had a lot of problems with. Uh,
I enjoy Man of Steel, but I also get it.
yeah. All right, so those were our movies
Yeah.
that everybody loves that were kind of like, yeah, not for us.
Oh, I'll go ahead and throw this one out there too. Even though
Sure.
we've already talked about it, but Thor Ragnarok, that's out there too.
Okay.
But we've already talked about it.
So if you've got some movies that are like that, please leave them in the comments. We'd love to hear them. And this is not where. Oh, there it goes. He made me do it segment where we take turns making each other watch something or read something or play a game or whatever. Um, so this week, in honor of Everything Everywhere All at Once coming out, I decided to have Caleb watch The One starring Jet Li. So Caleb, tell us about The One.
All right. So the one is a multiverse movie where Jet Li plays a guy named Yulaw who is going from universe to universe, killing other versions of himself. And the more he kills, he absorbs their energy. And after he kills all 124 variants, he becomes the one. And so it's down to him and then our universe's Gabe Law. And so they both are on equal playing field because they both have been absorbing the power, even though the good Gabe wasn't aware of it at first. And so it becomes a manhunt, and there's like a multiverse authority policing thing. It's like the TVA
Right.
from Loki. Um, so here's the thing. Of the things that you've had me watch or like read or anything you've had me do,
Uh-huh.
this is my favorite.
This was your favorite?
I
Okay, that's cool.
I I adored this movie so much.
It's a fun, simple concept, and it just there's some fun scenes. I think the MRI scene's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah. Whenever he goes to shoot him, and then the MRI snatches the gun out of his hand.
Yeah.
Um, no, so here's the thing that people got to know about me. The late '90s to early 2000s Matrix ripoff schlock, with like new metal in the background, action scenes. That is so my bag. As a kid, the Daredevil movie was one of my favorite movies, and so like this movie is so my bag. And honestly, it was whenever Let the Bodies Hit the Floor came on.
That part is so much fun.
Yeah, that's whenever I'm like, oh, this is because I didn't know what I was getting into. I'd heard stuff about it. I thought it was gonna be like just like a straight up martial arts movie, kind of like, Forbidden Kingdom or something like that.
Right.
But then I'm like, oh no, this is my kind of movie.
I'm a big fan of the final scene where he's in
Oh
the
man, that is
prison.
so cool.
He's like on the pyramid, just kicking everybody off and doing, "Come on!"
That is one of the that is one of the best, because it's like the bad guy gets put away, but it's still like I don't know. Like if they just put him in that universe and then like he got ganged up on and was killed, that's okay. But the fact that he for the rest of his life is going that's what I imagine. It's the rest of his life he is up on the top of that pyramid kicking everyone's butt forever.
Yeah, forever. Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
yeah, it is so cool.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty great. Like I said, not the greatest film ever made, but it's a fun watch.
Yeah, it just so happens to be everything that I personally love, and that's why I'm so ecstatic about it.
Oh, that's cool. I'm
Yeah,
glad you liked it. If you like movies like Highlander, this is a very similar concept about being the one.
it very much. Yeah, yeah. I thought it wasn't as dramatic as The Quickening, but it definitely had a quickening style to it.
Yeah, and I like how they do the multiverseness. It's more of a, I think, accurate where there's like, Jet Li shouldn't exist in every multiverse. His kids may or his parents may not have had him in this multiverse. They may have never met. So he shouldn't exist everywhere, and they should all be slightly different. And I think this movie does that really well.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I can definitely see how Everything Everywhere All at Once is going to be kind of similar to this.
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Well, I'm really glad you liked it. So, Caleb, what do you have for me for next week for He Made Me Do It?
So next week, we're gonna do. It's a little bit of a cheat, because it's one of the things that you've said technically you've seen it, but you barely remember it. So we're gonna go with it.
So I'm getting not older, but I'm getting middle age, and sometimes I just forget stuff that I watch.
Yeah.
So this is one where I remember some of the opening scenes, but after that, I don't really remember too much of it. And I've been wanting to rewatch it. So go ahead.
So I'm gonna have you watch just the first season, which is 4 episodes, of the Netflix Castlevania series.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I've been wanting to watch the rest of the series. Problematic, but he's one of my favorite writers. So it's cool that he got to work on this series. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So we'll talk about this next week. And speaking of dead things, next week we will be talking about dead franchises that we would like to see come back.
Mm.
So we're talking about like, cartoons and things from our childhood that maybe have never gotten a second chance. A lot of things are being brought back, but there's some shows that just, for whatever reason, they have not brought back, and I think they should.
Yeah.
So we will be looking at that next week. Could be video games that never got a sequel, maybe some movies. There's a lot of movies in the 80s that have like a to be continued at the end that they never followed up on.
Last Starfighter.
Oh yeah, good stuff.
That's one I always think of.
Yeah. So we'll be talking about that next week. I'm probably going on a 3-day camping trip this weekend, so I'll be getting back Sunday afternoon. So we'll see how that goes. I might be a little tired.
Sure. Yeah, definitely.
But we hope you'll join us next week. A little bit shorter episode this week, but we're having some technical issues, so we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Hopefully we'll get those sorted out for next week. So
yeah.
I've been Final Monkey.
And I'm Caleb.
We will talk to you next week. Bye.
See ya.